The 80s delivered absolute masterpieces that somehow slipped out of the cultural conversation despite being brilliant. We're talking about films with incredible craft, unforgettable performances, and stories that still hold up decades later. Sure, everyone quotes Ghostbusters and argues about Blade Runner, but what about the movies that nailed everything right and then just vanished into the void?
Hey, what is this? The invasion of the body snatchers? 2 days ago, we were bosom buddies.
Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, arrived as Cassandra Peterson's all-or-nothing gamble to prove her gothic horror host could anchor a feature film, following Elvira as she inherits a haunted mansion in conservative Falwell, Massachusetts, and battles her evil uncle Vincent for a powerful spellbook while clashing with prudish townsfolk. Studios were so skeptical about whether Elvira's cult TV appeal could survive 90 minutes that Peterson had to co-write the script herself just to keep executives from demanding a wholesome version that would have gutted every dirty joke she'd spent years perfecting. She performed her own slapstick stunts during the kitchen fire sequence and mansion escape scenes with minimal stunt double help, leaving production bruised and exhausted while wearing that unforgiving costume through back-to-back shoots. Peterson had survived far riskier stages before this, working as a Las Vegas showgirl at 17 and meeting Elvis Presley, enduring a serious childhood burn accident before creating Elvira as an act of defiance, all while concealing her 19-year relationship with another woman, out of fear Hollywood would abandon her if she dropped the straight persona Elvira appeared to represent. The real war started after the film bombed at the box office, when TV stations and regional censors hacked it to pieces, with Southern networks cutting the infamous boob tassel dance and overlaying digital censorship graphics that blocked huge chunks of screen. Peterson described how censorship wasn't just killing jokes, but erasing the entire point that you have a right to be outrageous, saying when they cut those scenes it felt like they were chopping pieces off her personally. She personally promoted the movie through quirky stunts, calling video stores herself and driving merchandise to fan conventions during the low point, while mourning the loss of close friends and collaborators who were also outsiders fighting for a place in entertainment. The film became a touchstone for anyone who'd ever felt like they didn't fit in, with Elvira showing that confidence and humor could turn being different into strength.
Let's go while we're young.
Mind, sir? Trying to tee off?
I bet you slice into the woods $100.
Caddyshack showed up as Harold Ramis's chaotic ensemble comedy set at Bushwood Country Club, where teenage caddy Danny Noonan navigates class warfare while groundskeeper Carl Spackler battles a mischievous gopher. Bill Murray arrived for what was supposed to be a minor supporting role, but immediately started inventing bizarre, unscripted monologues that blew away the entire cast. With the now legendary Cinderella story speech, where Murray waxed flower beds with a garden tool filmed in a single take, while crew members fought laughter so hard that Ramis supposedly ruined multiple takes by laughing too loudly. Murray's improvisational freedom set off a domino effect where suddenly everyone was permitted to riff and the script got hastily rewritten to accommodate Spackler's growing weirdness, turning what should have been a few days' work into a role that defined the entire film's anarchic tone. The real backstage drama involved Murray and Chevy Chase, refusing to work together after their infamous Saturday Night Live fistfight years earlier, forcing Ramis to devise a scene where their characters awkwardly meet in Carl's ramshackle bunker, with a script penciled on the fly and a whiskey-fueled truce that convinced both actors to actually show up. The genuine awkwardness from their real-life rivalry became the scene's strange magic, as Murray and Chase later admitted the moment turned them from bitter competitors to colleagues with actual respect. Ted Knight arrived expecting order and preparation from his Mary Tyler Moore days, but found rampant improvisation and relentless pranks from Chase and Murray, who saw his straight-laced demeanor as a target, channeling real frustration into comic rage during scenes where Judge Schmales attacks Danny, while privately feeling his dignity was constantly undermined. He walked away demoralized, vowing never to do another movie with such chaos, making Caddyshack one of his last major film appearances. The movie became a template for ensemble improvisation that influenced comedy for decades, with cast members still debating whether Knight's misery was collateral damage or the actual cost of making something genuinely anarchic.
I've been waiting 3 years for this.
For what?
For you to be old enough.
Real Genius showed up as a college comedy about teenage prodigy Mitch Taylor getting recruited to Pacific Tech for a high-stakes laser project by Professor Hathaway, where he meets legendary slacker genius Chris Knight and discovers they're secretly building a CIA assassination satellite while Hathaway embezzles funds to build his own mansion. Val Kilmer pranked his own audition by taunting producers about their youth and pulling sleight-of-hand tricks with candy bars, replicating Chris Knight's irreverence before he even got the role. Then kept that energy going throughout production by engineering mini pranks between takes and collaborating with actual Caltech students brought in as extras. Kilmer traded stories and copied their stunts and mannerisms so obsessively that script rewrites occurred to accommodate his on and off camera antics, making scenes looser and dialogue more playful, while leaving the director and cast exhausted but exhilarated by his infectious energy. The film's popcorn flood climax required production teams to spend months popping and fireproofing popcorn after learning that untreated kernels would catch fire under hot studio lights and poison local wildlife if not properly protected. They hired consultants to study how real laser physics could trigger such an event and recruited retired engineers to simulate the effect in a suburban house under construction in Los Angeles, filling it with literal tons of popcorn and filming the explosion from multiple angles while birds repeatedly swooped in seeking snacks. Michelle Merrick, who played the manic insomniac Jordan, became a cult favorite, but found herself overwhelmed by the demanding shoot and sudden fame from collegiate fan communities, who saw Jordan as the perfect geek girl. After Real Genius, she quietly stepped away from acting, citing exhaustion and concern about losing herself to industry pressures mirrored in the film's own story, eventually moving to Canada to become a meditation instructor while speaking openly about Hollywood burnout and encouraging younger actors to guard their well-being.
Rhonda, out the bellow.
Here.
You went from C's to F's. What happened?
Summer school arrived following gym teacher Freddie Shoop getting bribed to teach remedial English to misfit students who'd rather be anywhere else, trying the fun-loving route with trips to amusement parks and beach days before recognizing he's actually failing to teach and starting to take their struggle seriously. Mark Harmon had reservations about taking the role because he worried about being typecast as the charming goofball after previous dramatic work, so he immersed himself fully by encouraging cast improvisation and helping engineer real-life pranks on set that blurred the lines between cast and character. Harmon recalls that many scenes of classroom chaos were completely unscripted and based on actual teen anecdotes shared during rehearsals, which bonded the group and gave the film its unique laid-back authenticity that felt more real than any scripted comedy could manage. Gary Riley and Dean Cameron, playing horror-obsessed prankster duo Chainsaw and Dave, became underground celebrities through their irreverent improvisation and anarchic energy that resonated with young audiences who saw themselves in the misfit characters. Upon release, the film attracted fierce criticism from parent groups and educators who labeled its classroom antics dangerous and blamed the movie for promoting disrespect toward authority, with some school districts barring screenings and syndicated TV networks, cutting scenes deemed too rebellious for broadcast. The backlash only amplified the film's reputation among teenagers and young adults who saw it as validation for questioning rigid academic systems, with Harmon and Cameron speaking about the pride they felt being connected to a movie that empowered misfits, even as the controversy left them permanently tagged as the faces of America's least likely teachers.
I want you to be my bodyguard. Have you listened to the thing I said?
There is much I must do. I'm sorry, I cannot.
The Last Dragon showed up, as Motown founder Berry Gordy's bizarre attempt to merge martial arts mania with blaxploitation influences and music video aesthetics, following Bruce Leroy as he searches for the final level of martial arts mastery while battling the flamboyant Shogun of Harlem and rescuing video jockey Laura Charles from gangsters trying to control the music industry. Screenwriter Louis Vanosta merged Bruce Lee's enduring cultural popularity with African-American identity, while Gordy's involvement heavily shaped the tone and soundtrack featuring Motown artists like DeBarge, in sequences where narrative and musical performance connected through scenes like Rhythm of the Night. Timock was a young martial artist with almost no acting experience when he got chosen for the lead role after an extensive talent search, with creators seeking authenticity in fight scenes rather than Hollywood star power that could have sold more tickets but would have killed the film's gritty credibility. Julius Carey, who played arch-villain Shonuff, brought flamboyant theatrical energy inspired by kung fu movie tropes and classic comic book villains, while Vanity was cast as Laura Charles because she was a protege of Prince and an R&B singer-actress who emphasized the Motown-backed music video sensibility. Director Michael Schultz was chosen for his ability to handle both action and comedy from his prior work on Car Wash, filming in New York City to lend authenticity to its urban setting while mixing martial arts, fantasy, romance, comedy, and musical elements in ways that were unusual for its time. Critics gave mixed reviews, but audiences embraced the film enthusiastically, particularly within urban youth and martial arts fan communities, who connected with its blending of comedy, music, action, and African-American cultural motifs. Shonuff became a cult icon referenced in later films, hip-hop lyrics, and online culture, with the dialogue, costumes, and stylized fight choreography influencing music videos, fashion, and subsequent martial arts comedies for decades.
There's a new student on campus today, Buddy Revelle.
3 O'Clock High arrived, as screenwriters Richard Christian Matheson and Thomas Solosi's attempt to modernize the classic Western High Noon by setting it in a contemporary suburban high school, following anxious student Jerry Mitchell, who accidentally angers the terrifying new kid Buddy Revelle, and spends the entire day dreading their 3 o'clock fight. The writers mined their own awkward, anxiety-ridden high school experiences for the premise, substituting gunslingers with students while incorporating rumors, school gossip, and urban legends about violent new kids that spoke to the anxieties many teens feel about outcasts and bullies. Director Phil Jones, then in his 20s, was tapped after Steven Spielberg took an interest in the script and suggested Jones for his debut, with the young director channeling his love of film noir and Alfred Hitchcock into elaborate, stylish camera movements, time-lapse sequences, and off-kilter framing to heighten Jerry's desperation throughout the day. Casey Siemaska was cast as Jerry, despite being older than most high schoolers because he could convey nervous vulnerability, while Richard Tyson embodied the menacing Buddy Revell with stoic physical intimidation, amplified by rumors about his supposed violence and phobia of being touched that created psychological suspense. Filming on location at Ogden High School in Utah gave the movie authentic campus environments and edgy camera work that created an almost noirish energy, distinguishing it visually from John Hughes's more sentimental high school movies with technical flair that drew praise for crafting sustained dread and darkly comedic energy. Critic Roger Ebert questioned its morality upon release, disliking the encouragement for meek characters to fight back with violence rather than empathy, while some critics felt it played out teen anxiety as slapstick spectacle instead of exploring deeper roots of bullying and insecurity, sparking debates about high school power dynamics that continue whenever the film resurfaces in retrospectives.
Tomorrow, I promise, we'll figure everything out, okay? I mean, we'll find out where you belong and who you are. Okay?
Date with an Angel landed as director Tom McLaughlin's high-concept romantic fantasy following aspiring composer Jim Sanders, who discovers a beautiful angel with a broken wing in his swimming pool the night after his engagement party, sparking jealousy from his spoiled fiancée Patty and greed from her cosmetics mogul father who wants to exploit the angel's image to save his failing business. Michael Knight arrived from daytime soap opera fame, expecting a straightforward romantic lead, but found himself navigating a production where the entire concept hinged on audiences buying into celestial romance, during an era when studios were terrified that fantasy elements would kill box office returns unless you had Spielberg's name attached. The real challenge became Emmanuel as the wordless angel, performing almost entirely through nonverbal cues and childlike gestures that required take after take to capture the right balance between ethereal innocence and romantic chemistry, with crew members later admitting the silence made scenes awkward and difficult to pace during editing. Phoebe Cates, riding high from Fast Times and Gremlin's success, reportedly clashed with the tone of the material and struggled to make Patty's cartoonish jealousy feel grounded, leading to on-set tensions about whether the film was aiming for screwball comedy or genuine romance. McLaughlin fought to preserve the whimsical fantasy elements, while producers kept pushing for broader comedy and clearer genre definition, resulting in an uneven final cut that critics savaged for never committing to either direction. The film bombed theatrically and disappeared quickly, dismissed as a bizarre misfire that wasted Cates' star power on a premise too quirky for mainstream 80s audiences who wanted their rom-coms grounded in reality, proving that sometimes the films too weird for their own time struggle to find any audience willing to embrace their strange vision.
Rob Hodges, DIA, West Asian Section. Welcome to Pakistan.
Boy, you don't know how glad we are to see you guys.
Spies Like Us showed up as John Landis's Cold War espionage parody, starring Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase as bumbling government employees who get unwittingly assigned as decoy spies on a mission to infiltrate Soviet territory and crack a nuclear missile system through sheer dumb luck. Aykroyd co-wrote the script with Dave Thomas, crafting elaborate slapstick set pieces and political satire that required real military cooperation, with production gaining access to actual submarines and bases that added authenticity while creating logistical nightmares for crew members navigating security clearances and military protocols. The chemistry between Aykroyd's earnest naivety and Chase's cocky sarcasm drove the humor, but behind the scenes their working relationship was reportedly strained by Chase's notorious on-set behavior and tendency to dismiss scripted material in favor of his own improvised bits that frustrated Landis and the crew. Chase had developed a reputation for being difficult since his Saturday Night Live days, and that energy carried over into production where he would show up late, mock other actors' deliveries, and insist on rewriting jokes minutes before shooting scenes that had been meticulously planned. Landis, coming off the traumatic Twilight Zone helicopter disaster just years earlier that had killed 3 people and nearly destroyed his career, was desperate for a hit and tried to keep the peace by letting Chase have creative freedom even when it derailed scheduled filming. The production became notorious for going over budget and over schedule, as Chase's improvisations required constant rewrites and additional takes, with Aykroyd privately expressing frustration that his carefully constructed spy parody was being hijacked by Chase's need to be the center of attention. Critics gave mixed reviews upon release, with some praising the absurd slapstick, while others felt the film never committed fully to either political satire or pure comedy, leaving it stranded between competing visions of what Cold War parody should actually look like.